Mr. Baker?
Yep. My name is Bill Baker, and I'm the partner in charge of structural engineering for Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. I'm here today representing the American Society of Civil Engineers. I wish to express my sincere appreciation for being asked to address the Commission on behalf of the ASCE FEMA World Trade Center Building Performance Assessment Team. My comments relate to my role on the ASCE FEMA team, as well as my experience as a structural engineer assisting the firefighters and contractors in the early days after the attack on the World Trade Center. In addition, I will offer my recommendations as to what would be valuable to New York and other urban areas in dealing with the aftermath of future terrorist attack. These recommendations include immediate coordination of on-site contractors and structural engineers, an archive depository for construction drawings of all citywide buildings and infrastructure, and a federal Good Samaritan legislation for those assisting. When I arrived at the World Trade Center site after the attack, I was awestruck by the extent of the devastation. While the media focused on the destruction of the Twin Towers, the damage went far beyond anything that was conveyed to the general public. Damage included the total collapse of 4 major buildings, the partial collapse and burnout of 3 major buildings, and extensive damage to 7 additional buildings. Many other buildings suffered minor damage, and the district's infrastructure, including utilities and the subway system in the area, were extensively damaged, and parts of it were destroyed. The New York City Department of Design and Construction performed a brilliant job in organizing the efforts of the engineering and construction industries to support the search and rescue and later cleanup of the site. The DDC divided the district into 4 sectors, each sector which was assigned to a team of contractors. This was a very successful approach. Because the contractors were top-notch and adept at managing very large private and public sector projects, they knew how to organize teams, deal with heavy equipment, and marshal resources. However, the contractors needed the professional assistance of structural engineers. The Structural Engineering Association of New York stepped forward to organize the services of structural engineers from across the city, the state, and the country. SEONE, as it's called, assembled teams of structural engineers to assist each of the 4 contractor teams. I urge the Commission to use this approach developed by the DDC and the Structural Engineering Association of New York as a model for dealing with possible large urban disasters. In many ways, New York City was very fortunate to have the DDC and major players in the engineering and construction industries available to assist them immediately at the site. In the first critical hours and days following the attack, what was not readily available or well organized were drawings of buildings, plazas, subway tunnels, etc. As engineers and contractors were investigating the extent and severity of damage, drawings of original structures were sorely needed. When it was necessary to bring in large cranes across subway tunnels or vaults and plazas, drawings were an absolute necessity. I strongly urge that all major cities develop an archive depository for construction drawings and other critical information to be available to authorities on short notice. Duplicate copies should be housed in a redundant location. The structural engineers who assisted in the World Trade Center site were often in uncharted territories with respect to professional liability. There should be appropriate national Good Samaritan legislation to promote the assistance of engineers in such situations. While such legislation exists in high seismic states such as California and some of the West Coast states, all states are vulnerable to terrorist attack, and there should be appropriate legislation. At this point, I'd like to focus my comments on the efforts of the ASCE FEMA building assessment. The Structural Engineering Institute of the American Society of Civil Engineers was responsible for organizing this effort and bringing together the relevant professional societies with the support of FEMA for the assessment of the World Trade Center site. After the leadership of ASCE, under the leadership of ASCE, a team of structural engineers and fire engineers experts from around the country were brought together. Because of my expertise in the design of tall buildings, I was asked to join the effort and was part of a 5-man core team that directed the assessment. This type of effort is important because the advancement of construction of buildings often comes from the analysis of failures. The tragic events of 9/11 provide an opportunity to see how buildings, emergency systems, and structural systems behave in extraordinary events. Although the media focused on the Twin Towers, there was actually much more to be learned from the more ordinary buildings that were damaged by the events. We saw and documented the performance of structures that resisted extraordinary forces and maintained their overall integrity. But we also saw and documented collapses that, based on our previous experiences, should not have happened. It is through the study of these behaviors that the art of building design is advanced. Unfortunately, the ASCE and FEMA team faced many obstacles while studying the World Trade Center. The team was not able to assemble on the site until October 6th. We could only request and cajole to get drawings and other information. In fact, we didn't receive access to the Twin Tower drawings until January. Nonetheless, the team was able to perform an invaluable service in our initial overall evaluation of the buildings in order to focus and prioritize future investigations and research. In response to this, unfortunately, the National Construction Safety Act that was signed into law October 2002 addresses many of the difficulties faced by the ASCE FEMA team at the World Trade Center site. This act authorizes the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, to investigate building failures. This is similar to the National Transportation Safety Board investigations of airlines and other transportation accidents. This allows NIST teams access to building failure sites, provides the power to subpoena evidence, and provides access to drawings, records, and other documents, and it allows for the removal and storage of evidence. None of this was available to the ASCE team. The legislation is a significant step forward in creating a vehicle by which the design and construction industry can learn from failures. This will help to advance building technology and improve the safety and reliability of future construction. As a structural engineer, the World Trade Center collapse represents the largest structural failure in the history of mankind. From this tragedy, I'm confident we can learn how to approach catastrophic building failures in the future, and through the National Construction Safety Act, we will continue to learn how to improve our building construction. Thank you for your attention.